Good morning, everyone. This is Liz Sugiyama speaking on behalf of the Arizona Buddhist Temple here in Phoenix, Arizona. I want to thank you for watching us and supporting us through this medium. I'd like to begin with the recitation of the Nembutsu, so please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Mandabs. Today, we're here to celebrate Hanamatsuri. This is a time that we remember and celebrate the birth of the historical Shakyamuni Buddha, who was born 2,500 years ago in Lumbini's garden, which is at the border of India and Nepal. So today, it gives me great honor and privilege to introduce our guest speaker for Hanamatsuri. His name is Reverend Art Kaufmann. So I want to give you a little background. Reverend Art Kaufmann, he was born in New York. And after high school, he was enlisted in the Air Force. And so he was there for 8 years. He did a tour in Vietnam. And after his time in the Air Force, he was honorably discharged. And then he moved to Denver, Colorado. So that was how I remember him growing up in the Denver Buddhist Temple. He was a member for many years, and he was even a Dharma school teacher for my sister Enid when she was growing up. And so after some time in Colorado, he decided to move to Hawaii, and there he was very much involved at the Buddhist temple in Hawaii. He was at the Honolulu Betsuin, and there he decided to go into the ministry. And so he got his Otokudo in 1994. This is his first level in his ordination as becoming a minister. And then he became a kyoshi, a teacher of the Buddhist teachings in 2007. So during his time as a minister, he served time at the Honolulu Betsuin. He also did his ministry at the Hilo Betsuin. And now he is currently a minister at the Lihue Honganji Mission on the island of Kauai in Hawaii. So he's also married. He has 5 children and 10 grandchildren. So please enjoy his Dharma talk. Please listen to what he has to say. And to conclude, let me go ahead and end with Gassho. So please join me. Let's put our hands together. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Please listen to Reverend Art Kaufmann's Dharma message, and thank you for listening.
From Lihue Honganji Mission of Hawaii on the island of Kauai, I send you a warm aloha and wish you all continued good health and safety. Please join me in Gassho. Long ago in India, a little babe was born, and all around were pretty flowers to greet the glorious morn. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandabas, 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 Namanda. Aloha kako, welcome everyone. I would like to thank Reverend Sugiyama and the Sangha and Friends of the Arizona Buddhist Temple for this opportunity to speak to you on this very special day, this very special occasion of Hanamatsuri, the flower festival. What a great name for a birthday, isn't it? We are aware of the beautiful legends surrounding the birth of Siddhartha Gautama, But if we look at it in a realistic terms, I think we can relate to the birth on many levels. It is written that King Suddhodana and Queen Maya, his wife, had difficulty in getting pregnant. This problem still exists today for some couples. However, I think there are many more options for pregnancy today than there was 2,600 years ago. Still, it must have weighed heavily on their minds, as the king needed a male heir to carry out his line of succession. Finally, though, the queen did eventually get pregnant, and you can only imagine their joy. Think back to the news of your wife's first pregnancy. Now, I remember how I felt at the news. I felt excited, apprehensive, joyful, and worried, all at the same time. So you can imagine how the king and queen must have felt when they found out about their pregnancy. As per tradition, Queen Maya had to go to her parents' home in another province to give birth in the home in which she had been raised. She would have had, of course, her attendants, servants, guards, and others. But even so, I am sure King Suddhodana had his concerns. All traveling back then was done over land. No planes, buses, or cars, or other modes of transportation were available. The legend says that the queen's caravan stopped at Lumbini Garden to rest, which at that time was a beautiful flower garden. It is further written that Queen Maya went to admire the blossoms of an Ashoka tree. I don't know if you had the opportunity to see this tree. It is beautiful. Its blossoms are about the size of a hand, and they were brilliant, brilliant orange. So I hope you get the opportunity to see those blossoms at some time. When Queen Maya went to pick a blossom, it is said that the baby was born. The legend implies that she did not feel a thing. Sure. That's the way it happens, doesn't it, ladies? It goes on to say that the baby then got up and walked 7 steps and announced, "Over all of heaven and all of earth, I alone am the world-honored one." Nah, I don't think so. I think he announced himself in a little noisier way than that. Maybe something like, "Wah! Wah!" Of course, a messenger was immediately sent back to the palace to inform the king. The news of which, I am sure, though joyous, did not contribute to a calm mind. After all, there was his wife who just gave birth between the palace and her ancestral home. Do you remember how you felt at the arrival of your firstborn? I'm sure you were perfectly calm. Right. When my first wife, Jean, went into labor, off we flew to the hospital in a car. Me, I was a basket case. I did not know what to do, but I was ready to wait the situation out. This was back in 1961, when I was in the Air Force stationed at Dow Air Force Base near the city of Bangor in the state of Maine. At that time, the Air Force did not allow spouses in the delivery room, so I was ready for a considerable wait. Since Jean was in the first stages of labor, and it was her first pregnancy. The nurses advised me to go home, and they would call me when the baby came, which they did. We had a beautiful baby girl, and we named her Lorraine. When the queen returned to the palace, there was great joy throughout, as you can imagine. There are not many occasions more joyful than the arrival of a new baby. Today, we pretty much take giving birth for granted. But later in life, when I worked at the University of Colorado Health Sciences Center, I learned that birth should never be taken for granted. Not every baby is born and stays. I once did a service for a premature baby who was 10 days old. The family had decided to take him off life support to see if he could sustain life. But sadly, he could not. Not every baby comes out with 10 little fingers and 10 little toes. Unfortunately, nature can make some mistakes sometimes. So when a baby does come out with everything in the right place, we may indeed think of it as a miracle. Queen Maya was fortunate. Her baby was fine. Suddhodana and Maya named their son Siddhartha, which means every wish fulfilled. Isn't that a great name? After all, their baby was alive, healthy, and it was a boy. As was the custom back then, the happy parents sent for a holy man to do a reading over the baby for its future life. A homeless monk called Asita was sought to do just that. Asita happened to be on his way to the palace because he had seen a beautiful aura over the palace and he wanted to see what was causing it. When he arrived, he was ushered into the family, the happy family, and made this prophecy over the baby. This child will either become the greatest Shakya king ever and conquer the known world, or he will become a Buddha and save the entire world. This was a great prophecy, not to mention, but I think you know what part of the prophecy the king wanted to come true. As Asita was leaving the palace, one of the nobles noticed tears running down his aged face. The noble asked, "Asita, Asita, how can you weep on such a wonderful day as this?" Asita replied, "I weep because I shall not live long enough to see a living Buddha." Shortly after that day, impermanence claimed Queen Maya, ending her life. Even as we read the beautiful legend of the birth of the future Buddha, we see that the timeless laws that govern human existence were still in play. The wonderful story or legend of Siddhartha's birth is embellished in part to convey the importance of the birth, the importance of the event. But on a human scale, I think we can relate quite easily. This birth was to eventually lead to the disclosure of the potential of a human being. Relating does not affect to the importance of a birth, and it brings us closer to the king and queen. We do not have to be a king or queen or royal to relate to them. because all we have to do is be human. Happy Hanamatsuri. I have a postscript I would like to add to this talk. Recently I've heard complaints about Dharma talks about Shinran's time and Renyo's time in history as having no relevancy to modern times. As I tried to show in my talk today, the feelings, the emotions, the desires that existed in Siddhartha's time 2,600 years ago still exist in the world. The reality of the Four Noble Truths exists today as it always has. The three poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance still exist today, as you can see in the violent attacks on our Asian and Asian American citizens. These attacks are based in ignorance and fear, anger being the front for fear. So no matter which point in history is talked about in a Dharma talk, the relevancy is there to modern times if you look for it. No matter what part of the Four Noble Truths is talked about is relevant to modern times, and Facebook, YouTube, TikTok will not change that fact. We may not want to see it, but the relevance is there. The relevance is there. It further is to be remembered and never forgotten that the alleviation from human suffering is available. So our practice of deep listening will show relevancy, not just hearing, but deep listening, listening with your whole being. I like to say listening like your hair was on fire. Please join me in Gasho. Long ago in India, the prince had found the truth, and now he's Buddha, wise and kind, who shows the way to peace. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandavas, 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 Namandavas. Aloha and thank you.